Louis had been put on the Christmas Eve shift with Dennis. This wasn't the plan. Christmas Eve was always spent at Alec's mother's house. Drinks, karaoke, aunties letting loose. They'd been doing it since they were 17, 3 whole years. It was practically a tradition. But not this year. Louis had worked at the Aquarium 11 months now, and in all this time he'd hardly ever spoken to Dennis. He only knew the things that everyone knew about this quiet old man. That he'd been at the aquarium forever. He always wore a bright orange hat, and he sometimes spoke to the fish. Dennis was already in the staff room when Louis arrived. He was wearing his usual orange hat, and he had a length of flashing fairy lights draped around his neck. "Merry Christmas, Louis," said Dennis, pouring hot water into a dolphin-shaped mug. He turned to Louis. "Fancy a Chorlicks?" "Chorlicks?" asked Louis, forcing his rucksack into one of the tiny lockers. "2 spoons Horlicks, half a spoon of cocoa. A perfect drink for the most wonderful shift of the year," said Dennis, stirring his drink with a teaspoon. Louis shook his head. "You're all right, mate," he said. "I'll make myself a coffee." After their drinks, they began to work. They started at the shallows, Louis pushing the trolley while Dennis fed the crabs. In the coastal zone, Dennis checked the tank's levels, calling out the readings for Louis to note down. They were working quickly, and Louis started to feel optimistic. See, on a normal evening shift, you had to stay through till the next morning. But on Christmas Eve, if they finished all their duties, then they were good to go. At this rate, Louis would get to the party no problem. Next was a room lined with smaller tanks populated by the kind of sea creatures that looked like they should live in space. Louis picked up a bucket and made his way around the low-lit room, dropping food into each tank. When he got back to the trolley, he found Dennis staring into one of the glass boxes. Louis looked in the tank. A bright red starfish was crawling up the glass. "Isn't she good?" whispered Dennis. "Like a Christmas star." The starfish climbed up the glass, stopping at Dennis's eye level, as if he was trying to be with him. Louis took hold of the trolley. "Shall we get going then, Dennis?" he said. "We've still got stuff to do." They took the lift down to the deep ocean without speaking. As the doors opened onto the room of floor-to-ceiling tanks, Louis broke the silence. "Where's Christmas this year then, Dennis? You spending it with the family?" "Nope, it's just me," replied Dennis. A shark swam up to the glass, then turned back into the gloom. "That's why I take this shift. Get to spend time with another human being. And this place has a kind of Christmas magic at night, don't you think?" Louis felt bad. He was rushing them through whilst Dennis was cherishing the company. The old man walked into the centre of the gallery. Louis watched him. At this time of night, the lights were left off, so the only illumination came from the fairy lights twinkling round Dennis's neck. Louis began to notice a soft glow coming from the depths of the tanks. The glow got brighter, then brighter. Dennis was surrounded by a ring of luminous jellyfish, an underwater festoon of bright white light. The glow from these strange, translucent creatures pulsed slowly on and off, as if following the rhythm of Dennis's fairy lights. They weren't, of course. It was a coincidence. "Christmas lights for Christmas Eve." Dennis's voice echoed around the gallery. Louis stood transfixed. Bzzz, went Louis' phone. A message. He took it out and glanced at the screen. It was Alex. Was he going to make it? He'd just missed an incredible George Michael impression. Louis put the phone back in his pocket. and took hold of the trolley. "Come on, Dennis, let's go." By 10:30, there'd only the penguins left to feed. Alex's party was in touching distance. They arrived at the Antarctic, and Dennis turned to Louis. "You going to stay for a bit after we've finished? We could make another drink, seeing Christmas morning." Louis took 2 fish from a yellow bucket and dropped them into the water. "I've actually got a thing at a Christmas party I go every year." Dennis turned to the bucket, hiding his face, but Louis could see his disappointment. Dennis grabbed a fish and threw it directly into the smallest penguin's mouth. "Well, maybe you could stay for half an hour. The tanks really come to life at this time of night." Louis emptied the bucket into the ice-cold water. Was he going to leave this old man on his own at Christmas? The penguins jostled for their supper. "I've got to go to this party. Sorry, Dennis. Maybe next time." Dennis took hold of the trolley. "Not to worry." He walked towards the doors. "You get off then. I can clean up the buckets." "Are you sure?" said Louis. "Go on before I change my mind." Dennis opened the doors and dragged the trolley after him. "Merry Christmas, Louis." He disappeared down the corridor. Louis took the lift back up to the staff room, thinking about what he'd just done. He felt guilty. No, Christmas was about singing Wham with your mates, not babysitting some old man. Up in the staff room, he struggled to get his bag out of the tiny locker. He eventually prized it free and took the stairs down towards the exit. Louis stopped. He could hear something. Was Dennis playing music? He walked over to the doors of the deep ocean. He peered through one of the high circular windows. In the gloom, he could just make out Dennis's bright orange hat. The opening bars of Merry Christmas, everyone, were pulsing through the tannoy, bouncing off the glass walls. The fairy lights around Dennis's neck flickered into life, and as they did, the jellyfish floated into view, their lights pulsating in time with the music. The bright white light revealed a scattering of starfish stuck to the glass of the tank like stars twinkling in the night sky. A school of red and green snappers dipped and dived, creating flashes of colour like fireworks in the dark. Louis's eyes adjusted to the soft light. The penguins were in the gallery, surrounding Dennis. They were dancing, honking, trying to impress the old man. Dennis was laughing. The tanks really come to life at this time of night. Dennis had wanted to share this with Louis. Louis had said no. Alex's party would have to wait. Louis took a big breath and pushed the door into the deep ocean. It was locked. Louis tried the door next to it. Locked. The door after that, locked. He couldn't get into the party. Louis looked back through the window. The shark had joined the festivities. The penguins were in full swing.